Hey guys, my name is Massimo, and today's challenge was a difficult one. A little over 100 of you wanted me to use the Scout Elite, so we are already looking bad, with the Flir scope, the suppressor, flashlight, and bipod. To top it all off, you also wanted me to use the M1911 pistol with the suppressor and the 3x scope. This is a really bad loadout, but I think the biggest thing that was holding me back, or what was frustrating me the most, was the new movement system that DICE added with the big update. You guys have probably noticed that people are zipping around all over the place, and if someone is strafing back and forth, trying to line up a headshot is nearly impossible, or being able to predict where they're going is nearly impossible. Like, there were so many moments when I would come across a bunch of enemies, I get that perfect flank off, and because I was using the suppressor, I was staying off the minimap, and I would sit there for a good minute, firing every single one of my rounds in that 6-round magazine, which sucks. I hate the small magazine size on the Scout Elite. But then I'd proceed to miss every single one of my bullets, simply because it looks like the enemy is having a seizure in front of me. They're dipping in and out, they're moving sporadically, and it all comes down to that movement system. If you are someone who is able to snipe aggressively, or really just snipe effectively at all with the big update, a tip of the hat to you. Maybe it's just simply because I'm not the best sniper. I've admitted in the past that, you know, sniper is not the best class for me. I struggle with it. I've struggled with it ever since Battlefield 4 launched, and maybe it's just because I haven't put enough time into it, but because the enemy is moving just so randomly, and there isn't any inertia, there's no build up to them getting to max speed, it's not easy lining and predicting those shots. As for the Scout Elite though, while I don't snipe very often, this is a rifle that I will never touch with a 10-foot pole. I get what DICE was going for. They were trying to create a bolt-action rifle that would excel with aggressive recons. It was clear that back in Bad Company 2 and in Battlefield 3, people enjoyed that playstyle, and so it looks like they tailored a weapon that was entirely designed with that in mind. My problem with it, though, is that while I do enjoy some of the properties, and we'll get to that here in a second, the notion that you're not able to secure a one-shot kill if you hit an enemy directly in the dome piece if they're 100 meters away from you, where you would assume a bolt-action rifle would excel at, just doesn't sit well with me. It only does 36.6 damage at those extreme distances, and so, of course, even if you get the headshot, you get the 2x multiplier, that's only going up to, what, 73 damage per round? And I guess that would be perfect for hardcore. Maybe that was the one way I would be able to work around this challenge and be a little bit more successful, but in normal, which is clearly what you guys wanted me to play this in, it's, oh God, it was frustrating to get a hit marker on an enemy when you know that you just hit him in the head, but simply because its damage drops off like a rock. God, it was a fairly infuriating aspect of the Scout Elite. The solid components of it, though, and the reason why this is known to be one of the best aggressive recon weapons in the game, is that it has the fastest rounds per minute out of all of the bolt-action rifles. It comes in at a solid 63, and while I know that doesn't sound all that impressive, and really, it isn't that impressive, you compare them all to all of the others, if you're in a tight spot and you need to get as many rounds as possible downrange because there's a lot of people in the room, this is the gun that's going to be more likely to be able to take care of every single one of those players. And then surprisingly, it also has a very fast bullet velocity. It comes in at 640 meters per second, and you compare that to basically all the other bolt-action rifles, or really every gun in Battlefield 4, that is one of the fastest bullet velocities in the game. But even with these advantages, I got murdered up close. It was probably a combination of the loadout being a hindrance. I know the movement system was playing a role, or maybe I'm just terrible. Maybe I have an abysmal shot and that was what was really holding me back. But in general, I just struggled to do well up close. The one saving grace that I did notice is that a lot of people have been gravitating away from the defensive field upgrade path in favor of more like the offensive or dabbling into some of the others, and because the defensive field upgrade is the bane of the existence of an aggressive recon, running around against more players that are not even using this upgrade anymore was nice. I was able to aim for the upper chest way more than I would be able to in the past, and that was one way that I was sort of able to get around not aiming for an enemy's head and get that one-shot kill. The one component that I was loving, though, was the fact that you allowed me to use the M1911. Sure, the 3x scope is a little excessive, and I would much rather be using the red dot sight, but I love the M1911. It hits like a truck. You really, admittedly, don't even need to aim down sight, so the 3x scope wasn't that large of a hindrance. And if I was in a tight spot, I was much more likely to switch on over to this pistol instead of relying on a quickscope with the Scout Elite. It has a faster rounds per minute, it's got plenty of rounds in the magazine, it hits very hard, only need to put a couple of rounds into the enemy to take them out, and so a lot of the times I was just relying on the pistol to do the work that the Scout Elite should have been able to do, but because the faster RPM allowed me to not have to worry about lining up every single one of my shots, it was a nice substitute to slay my enemies. One trick that I try to take advantage of as often as I could was employing the smoke grenade alongside the Flir scope. There were a lot of moments when I was just trying to figure out where the action was, and so I would place this down, I would sit in the smoke, and because the Flir just cuts right through that, and most players aren't going to be using that scope, if an enemy did round the corner, they would see the smoke, they may suspect that an enemy is inside of it, but hopefully that would give me the second or half a second to get the advantage and drop off onto the enemy. I didn't use it as often as I probably should have because it can be a little tricky at times, but that was one way I was able to turn the tables on the enemy and have at least a slight advantage. But overall, this challenge nearly ruined me. I was getting excited if I was just killing 2 people in a row. 3 or 4 back-to-back, I was ecstatic. I felt like a sniper god. And it all just came down to, well, of course, the movement system. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but also the loadout that you gave me. The Flir scope, while I don't think it's the worst attachment in the game, it's not meant for aggressive recon playstyle. Like the red dot sight or the ACOG is going to be a much better attachment. The flashlight, God, you know, I'm basically just shining a light into the enemy. I'm letting them know where I am. And so while you did allow me to use a suppressor, which was nice, it allowed me to get some nice flanks off on the enemy. If they had any idea of what was going on around them, if they had any situational awareness at all, they were going to notice the flashlight, they'd realize that I was in the room, and then immediately take me out. And then top it all off, of course, the bipod, not meant for aggressive recon type of playstyle, and really not being able to use a straight pull was a fairly large disadvantage. I did not realize how much I rely on the straight pull. I was very surprised by that notion, and so in general, this loadout was just a pile of crap. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Terrible Weapon Challenge. I have to commend you on this loadout. It was definitely a very difficult one. If you have a suggestion or a setup that you would like me to try next, let me know down below. This is a series that is completely based off your guys' recommendations, and so if you have a weapon with a terrible combination of attachments that you would like me to try out, or if there is a gadget that you would like me to use exclusively, let me know down below in the comment sections. But until tomorrow, have a good one, and take it easy.